ever thought the first movie was just kind of fine, I guess, and that's basically where I am on the sequel. It's basically fine, yeah. It might actually be a little better than the first one, but mainly because it seems more propulsively confident in yoinking itself out of both the constraints of what was never exactly a cinematic video game in the first place, and the enthusiastic but also very, very dumb, partially fandom-created mythology that's grown up around it, and trying to find a path to being something like an actual movie in the pieces, and this time that's managed a little more strongly, but the damn thing is still basically half over before it's done moving the pieces of backstory, Easter eggs for the fans, setups for the inevitable Part 3, and both literal and figurative plot machinery into place so that an actual present-tense story can get going that, you know, that part's actually pretty good, but then only gets to do its thing for basically the third act. Anyway, if you're somehow planning to watch this without the first one, or you were going to watch either of them but have never heard of these games, aka you're a person over the age of 20 who doesn't have to make YouTube gaming content for a living, well, I mean, if those things are the case, you probably just aren't going to watch either of these, are you? But just in case, we kinda have to do some spoilers for any of this to mean anything, and yeah. So, the hook of all of this is Haunted Chuck E. Cheese. Freddys is a long-shuttered 80s kids pizza arcade with animatronic singing puppet characters that was closed because of suspicious happenings that security guard Josh Hutcherson discovered in the first movie actually involved the eccentric proprietor William Afton being a serial child killer who was hiding the remains of his victims inside the animatronic puppet characters, which is why said puppet characters are now possessed by the child ghosts and stalk around killing people, but also commune with the hero's younger sister Abby because maybe they want to be good instead. Also, one of those victims was our protagonist's brother, who he failed to save as a kid, and Afton is still alive, and he uses a puppet rabbit-shaped animatronic power suit called Springtrap to continue doing his murders, which may or may not be more than murders. Also, he has a daughter who's a cop who is sort of one of the good guys, but also keeps covering up and lying about how much she actually knows to advance the plot of both movies. Yes, this is all incredibly overcomplicated and stupid, but animal mascot-shaped Terminators are really, really merchandisable as main monsters for a horror franchise, and Blumhouse paid a shit ton of money for the license and for Jim Henson Company to build these damn things, so we're doing at least a trilogy of this. Anyway, as of Part 1, the So That's What's Going On mystery had been revealed and the villain presumably defeated, so we're doing a 2020 special Survivor's Guilt trauma storyline, a sequel for the good guys to try and fail to get back to normal while having jump scare memories of the first movie to remind us of which bad guys will be coming back for real in Part 3, while in present our new villains are alternate versions of the bad guys again, because there's really only so much to do here. Sing along if you remember the words from the Michael Crichton novel of your choosing. Turns out there was a prototype Freddy's before the Freddys we were familiar with, where a different, worse accident happened before, and different, more powerful evil-possessed robots are still trapped and waiting to break free. These ones are all controlled in sync this time by a single, more powerful rage-born dead child ghost inhabiting a much more conventionally horror movie scary robot called Marionette that can also just straight up possess humans and turn them into zombie, vampire, puppet, monster face demons because, yeah, you can kind of tell they ran smack face first into the realization that the main monsters of their horror franchise, while very merchandisable, are not actually scary outside the context of a jump scare video game because these are movies now, and at some point they said, fuck it, one of them can just turn into a conjuring ghost and fly around grabbing people now, so some of this can be kinda scary. Which is all the more interesting to watch as the movie contorts itself around than it is actually interesting narratively, since the payoff setup stuff is also mechanical, you just end up waiting for it. Like, I understand why the Deus Ex Machina finale of this will be very satisfying to longtime fans of the franchise. I just kinda wish I didn't go, oh, now I know exactly how the movie's going to end about 20 minutes into it. And look, that's the innate problem the entire franchise has as a media franchise. They keep trying to make the movie of the game, or the movie of the video content about the game, more so than a movie of the premise, but the premise is honestly really solid as the setup for a horror story. The basic recognition of places like Chuck E. Cheese or Showtime Pizza as these things designed to be cute and fun for kids that were actually kind of creepy as the foundation and setting for an actually a lot of adults are bad and the adult world is full of predatory spaces and you shouldn't trust them and that's why your instincts were telling you to be afraid back then, you know, sort of scary childhood story in the vein of Stephen King's It is a good jumping off point. That really works, and the opening flashback to child murder origin scene in this one, even though most of the violence is off-screen or implied until until it's not, is really dark stuff, like genuine nightmare fuel. I watched a lot of gory, superficially bloody, scary stuff as a kid, and I can tell you the opening scene of this sequel really would have shaken the shit out of me if I was the age of what I assume most of the fan base of this still is. And I also kind of feel like back in the day when the MPAA cared more about the intent and psychology of just counting up the minutes of content, there's no way this would have skated out under an R rating, even if the rest of the movie was just big puppet suits stomping around and throwing people. Like, it's seriously dark stuff. And the rest of it really does eventually work once we're out of the setup for here's who the sequel villain is, these are the stakes, this is what's happening, this is what they want, and how we can or can't stop them. It's solid. Good premise, well executed. The cast buys into and sells back most of what's still very thin, goofy material, and Emma Tammy is a good director. She kind of has to be, because there's just no way that most of this should work visually as well as it does. There's a solid 25 minutes or so where you can discern the better, cleaner, more streamlined, just the good parts movie this could have been if it would just get out of its own way. But as it stands, much like with the first one, it's unique enough as a hybrid of killer robot, slasher, ghost house movie, and the fact that it's clunky and weird and kind of up its own ass with overwrought mythology really reminds me of the old Full Moon stuff like Puppet Master or Demonic Toys, where the ambition always outran the actual on-screen quality. And, you know, I can understand that the younger audience of these, you know, maybe being into them for the same reason I kind of dug that stuff back in the day, so I can really only be so hard on it. And yeah, call it a 6 out of 10. You probably already saw this or didn't see it or know whether or not you're gonna, but yeah, go knock yourself out. Also, guys, I actually did see this one a couple of days before release, and the review is only coming out now because hey, we had some serious technical trouble on the system side and only just got our editing software back up and working. Things have been very tough here this year. Every bit of revenue that we get off of these videos, off of the Patreon, off of the MovieBob Ko-fi account, really does help. So if you can hop in and help us out any way you can, it's all really appreciated. The holidays are as tough a time as any. So help us out, help your favorite creators out, click those links, and yeah, have a good one.